Welcome, Supers, to this Shark Tank Tales interview that I'm conducting. We're calling it Shark Tank Tales. Or Shark Tales, Shark Tank Tales, whatever you want to call it. These are the interviews with the Shark Tank businesses. And today I have Aaron Powell of Bunch Bikes, who was just recently on Shark Tank, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something. Well, this could have been a year ago by the time you're watching it. Who the heck knows? Anyway, we're here. I'm here. I got Aaron here. Let me get him up here on the screen, and we will get this interview started. All right, Aaron.
What's
How
happening, Joe?
are you doing? How are you doing this morning?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Or afternoon? I don't know what time it is. This is. So let's talk Shark Tank, right? Let's start at the beginning. What got you into the idea that you would go, you would start this? Because obviously getting on Shark Tank's a journey, right? Like, it's pretty well documented. It is not like, oh, I showed up and then like I just happened to write my name on the piece of paper.
I just walked in the studio
and said,
no, well, no, really it was a former employee who was like a huge Shark Tank fan, and she's like, Aaron, you got to be on Shark Tank. This is perfect. You got to be on the show. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people at audition. Like, I don't know if that's something that would work out. But just to kind of placate her, I just filled out the application online. I didn't go to an open call or anything. Just filled out like whatever 7-question thing they have and said, okay, there, Julie, I applied. So leave me alone. And, a few months later, they, gave me the first call and then kind of went from there.
wow, that's crazy. Because I mean, they do well. I don't know about when did you apply? Was it 2018 or 2019?
No. So yeah, we just aired this most recent season. So this process started last year, 2020.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. So yeah, there probably wasn't any open calls through 2020, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I filled out the application pre-COVID, so they were still doing open calls. And in the past, they've done them in Dallas, but they didn't have any scheduled for Dallas for this season. So it's like, I'm not going to go out of my way to go drive to go do this thing. So I'll just fill it out online, and if they want me, they want me. And I guess they did.
So you said it was a former employee. So was she just recently departed, or like?
She actually had left a little bit before that to go like start her own coffee truck business. So
that's all. I love that.
Entrepreneur at heart. She owned her own restaurant. They moved to Dallas. She was like looking for something to do kind of in the meantime, worked for me for a little while. And then she's like, I got to go back to the restaurant biz. That's what I like. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she was excited when she, heard that you were going to be on the show.
Oh yeah, totally.
So you applied in 2020, didn't probably expect to actually hear anything, because they have like 40,000 people a year apply for this thing. So
that's right. That's right.
It's the odds are not in your favor, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot, just a lot of businesses, right? It's easy to miss the boat without even knowing it, right?
Well, but I think what helps, and why I was kind of hopeful something would happen was, I think there's really two things that play into it. One is, having a product that's unique or different in some way from what's been on the show in the past, or it's, just gets people's attention, but then also having just a good story. And I think I had kind of a good combo of both of those that made it interesting for TV, because at the end of the day, it's all about making interesting TV that people want to watch. So
about that
you might have the best business in the world, but if you're super boring and you don't have a story, and you're not going to be good for TV. So they want somebody with personality, and they kind of screen you on the phone calls. I'm sure they're checking all these boxes as they're talking to you, making sure that they think you're worth moving forward in the process. And you got to make an audition tape and a video and all this stuff, and lots and lots of tapes you got to send over. So it's just a process, and they just whittle it down, and then eventually, hey, you got a spot to film.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So when you went out there, I've read that you guys had the quarantine when you got out to Vegas, which had to have been tough. Was it because you obviously were already operating a business? It's not like this was a business that, well, we're working on getting to, or we're pre-revenue, or we did a Kickstarter, but then and nothing wrong with that to to anybody watching, but in your case, you actually were operating a business, and to have to operate your business remotely for like 10 to 14 days. Did you find that part challenging?
And I think the most challenging part, not so much being away for a couple of weeks. I've got employees that are able to handle that. and it's just sitting in a hotel room. I've got a laptop, so I can do a lot of my work just sitting there. But it was the hardest part was running the business during the COVID uncertainty. Like right at the beginning, it's like, are we going to shut down? Is the government going to shut us down? Am I going to, our sales had like stopped. It's like, am I going to have to fire all my employees? Like in the midst of all that, like I'm auditioning, like I'm going through the Shark Tank process. And so, and then I get far enough along to where it's like, okay, it's fairly likely I'm going to film. And so I need to be very, very prepared. And so it's like preparing for Shark Tank was like a full-time job on top of my full-time job already, where, it's like every evening just watching episode after episode, taking notes. I mean,
Oh, ding
I'd watched
ding.
the show, but I hadn't like, thought in such detail about, okay, I need to have an answer for every single one of these questions for the last 5 seasons that's ever been asked to an entrepreneur. I had hundreds of questions on this list, and then you kind of prioritize, okay, what's most likely to be answered? What's kind of unique and specific to somebody else's business that's not relevant to mine? And then you kind of find this correlation. Okay, here's like these top 30, 40 questions that I have to know no matter what, or I'm going to look like the biggest idiot if I don't. And this is going to follow me around the rest of my life, biggest moment of my life. So I better have a good showing,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so is one of the questions, because I've helped somebody. Well, you wouldn't know, but I was helping somebody get to Shark Tank a number of years ago. At this point, it was like 7 years ago, and she unfortunately did not make it. But her plan was to bring me with her because of the numbers, and all those questions that she just wasn't good at them. So one of the things I always wondered was, as going on to the show, did you prepare for the potential for somebody to say, I'll buy your business, I'll take the whole thing? Was that as a thing that you were prepared for, on the of the things you were putting on the table, like, hey, this could happen, these questions could come up?
Yeah, well, I mean, literally, if there was a question that was asked on the show, like I wrote it down and I had an answer for it. And yeah, I mean, I had an answer for that scenario, and the price would have been more than anybody would have wanted to pay there in that scenario. So I didn't think that it was going to be likely, but I was ready to, I guess, walk away if the number was right, But in the Shark Tank, I don't think you're going to get an acquisition offer that's going to be good, unless you're really desperate for some reason, or you're trying to get out, like, and I'm not, we're really just on the cusp of things taking off. Like, why would I want to sell it right now? Because
Yeah.
COVID was really, really good for the bike industry in terms of demand. Like, a lot of people want to get out and bike, so it's like things are actually looking up for us right now. So I think I'm okay.
And that's one of the difficult things about with COVID, right? It's like so many industries, some are like way up, some of them are way like decimated, some of them are just way down.
And
There's
even being up causes its own problems, because actually the biggest challenge, and one of the reasons I was even raising money, was that just the supply chain is completely broken. So like demand is high worldwide for bikes. Factories are all beyond capacity. And so I'm having to pay for inventory more than a year in advance. Normally I buy it 3 months in advance. And some parts, like some brakes, I'm paying for 2 years in advance. And it's like, wow, like I just paid $50,000 for brakes I'm not going to get for 2 years. It's like unbelievable. So it's kind of a cash flow nightmare. But at the same time, demand is really high, and we're selling the bikes that we have. And most of last year was spent being out of stock because we were selling so many. So just all going right back out to inventory that I'll eventually one day, hopefully, will recoup once things recover. Give it a year or two.
that brings up a great question about aside from Shark Tank, is how did you go about staying relevant when you have zero inventory to actually sell? Right, because like everybody says it's a good thing, right? We sold everything, it's great. Like, but from a staying relevant point and hoping that people remember you, but like, hey, I can show you this awesome bike, but you can't actually have it right now. Like, there's a waiting list.
It was kind of a symptom of the whole industry. Like, literally every Walmart last year had no bikes, so it was like this bike mania. Like, it was very much in the news. If you were in the market for a bike, you knew that there was no bike to buy from any company anywhere. Like, everybody was sold out. Every bike shop was pretty much cleared out and empty. There was nothing for like that last summer. Like, everyone was just scrambling to get anything, like parts. Everyone was hoarding parts. It was like toilet paper times 100. So, so it was relevant in that it was like always in the news, like Walmart, like, the bike boom or whatever. But our product being a high priced kind of bike is, it's kind of an aspirational product. A lot of people aren't buying immediately anyways. They're saving up for a few months or thinking about it, or they're not, so they will wait a while to get it. And so we were doing pre-orders like, hey, like I know the lead times are long right now because of COVID. We'll actually put the product on as a little bit of a discount. Order now, you'll get it in a couple months. So people were kind of reserving their spots that way. And that's kind of how we kept income coming in the meantime. So it was, it's all a challenge. I don't like doing pre-orders like that because then things happen or there's a delay and now everybody's upset. It's like, I try to like just be straight and honest with the lead times and delivery times. And sometimes with pre-orders, things just happen that are outside of your control, and delays kind of piled upon delays, and it was sometimes 2 or 3 suppliers down and there was just nothing we could do about it. And we're still kind of recovering from all that and feeling the effects going into this year, but I think we've gotten ahead of it for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you weren't the only industry. I mean, RVs were, that's boats, the boating industry, graphic, the computer industry.
Inline skates made a comeback too.
Yeah. Well, actually quite a few of my friends are doing roller skating. They
Yep.
wanted to I'm gonna turn 40 soon, and I never learned how to roller skate. I'm gonna do it, and they've been posting pictures every day, like them, or video of them every day, like getting better and better at roller skating. So I guess it's when you're stuck at home, not by choice, it's like, look at all the things that I should be doing, because otherwise I literally would just be sitting in front of my
same
computer
with us. Like
TV.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do some stuff in the backyard, clean it up. I'm going to build a sandbox for the kids. Literally for 2 months, there was no sand at any hardware store in town. I could not buy any sand. So it's like, well, kids, here's a box on the ground and some dirt. Just put some water in there, and now it's a mud pit. It's like, eventually I got sand, but it took months because everyone else was doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I wouldn't have this studio if it wasn't for COVID. I wouldn't have this studio here out in the garage. Like, I went and built it because I was home every day, and it's like, oh well, I got time and money, and let me go put it together. So fortunately, drywall wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem at the time in which I did it, but there was a crunch there too, because everyone was doing their home improvement stuff, being home. So getting back to Shark Tank, you did you have a shark in mind that you wanted to work with?
Yeah, so I had a couple. So Barbara, actually, I had picked out through my research. Also, part of my preparations, I kind of dug in deep on each of the sharks. What are their personalities? What are they likely to invest in? If so, what are they looking for? What other companies have they invested in? If they had written a book, I read their book. And just kind of looking at Barbara and learning about her, it's like, okay, one, she's into bikes. She's riding in Central Park all the time in New York. She's invested in bike companies in the show in the past. I thought she was a likely candidate to be interested in what I was doing. And just based on and then I also talked to entrepreneurs who had been invested in by all the sharks and kind of asked their behind the scenes experience. Hey, what was it like working with them? Were they supportive or whatever? And everyone I talked to that had done a deal with Barbara was like, had nothing but good things to say. And so I thought, you know what? She's kind of number one on my list here. I kind of had said, even in the beginning of the show, I had picked her to come down and test ride the bike. And before I could even get the words out, she's like, I want to come ride that thing. And so it was like signs are pointing to, hey, she's interested right from the get-go, kind of like I had anticipated. And then I was also thinking about Robert as well, because he's kind of into everything that moves and has wheels, and he's always up on skateboards or whatever it is. And he's got a couple of young kids at home. He wasn't up on my panel, so that wasn't really an option there. But those were kind of the two I was looking at.
That I don't know if you can divulge that. How early on did you know who was going to be on the panel?
Not very much in advance.
Not very okay. So like days, not like weeks.
Yeah,
or months.
It was like you kind of just prepare for anything. It could have been they could have thrown one of the guests out there, and I wouldn't have known until very kind of soon before. Wow. So
okay,
I've read other people's experiences. Like they found out like literally the day of, they made a switcheroo and they changed it up. And it's like, so you really don't know until like just about before you go out there, like who's going to be out there. You just got to kind of prepare for everything.
That's and there's a growing list of sharks, guest sharks that they have on the show, and obviously the producers know what they're doing, right? They're pairing up like, hey, Jeff Foxworthy's going to be here. Let's put the Hillbilly brand out there because maybe
it's showbiz. The show must go on. Things happen. People got to switch up for whatever various scenarios. Somebody gets sick or COVID or decides they can't do it and they bail. It's like like they got to have any sort of like random, like they don't really commit to anything. The options are open until the day of, like you don't really know what's going to happen. You just kind of go where they tell you and you do it.
I mean, there's this a sense of excitement about that though, because I would feel even it makes me feel like if I was there, I would feel even more accomplished coming off the show, regardless of if I went well or didn't, but especially if I did get a deal, because like I don't know, it could have been like Mark, two different, a guest, and three other sharks that I just wasn't prepared, other than Kevin, who's been on like literally almost every episode. I think I can only think of one episode.
There's not many without him. He's like the center of it, right? He's got
yeah. Well, the one that I can like, I did like the four pitches off of that episode. Mark sat in the center, which just felt awkward to see him sitting
that's not right.
in the middle.
Or like the season where they had like 6 sharks for like an episode or two, and they're like, "That's not working out. Let's take those off of there."
So taking out those outliers, Kevin pretty much is in every episode. So he's one of the pretty much a guarantee.
He's the glue that holds it all together,
He does. So all right, so you're out there. Did you feel nervous when you walked out there? I mean, obviously they make you walk out. For anyone who doesn't know, they make you walk out there, stand out there, and they do get all the angles and the faces, and you're just literally standing there for, I don't know what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, before you even say a word, you actually have to go out there and you kind of stand there, and they get all their empty like B-roll of you just like looking at the sharks and not saying a word, and it's kind of awkward. And actually, I was halfway into that, and I realized I'd forgotten to take my helmet off, and so then I was like, "Oh, hang on," and I'd like go take my helmet off and like go back and do it again. It's like so it was off to an awkward start for me, But actually, I think I was most nervous in the quarantine leading up to it. To be in a hotel room by yourself for 2 weeks, just staring at the walls, nowhere to go, can't go exercise. It's like just thinking about the impending thing that's about to happen. Like that was when I was most nervous. And, I have a background in music. And so I've been on stage probably hundreds of times. And so I don't really get stage fright. It's more like this excitement or just like kind of energy that you just feel when you're in the moment. And so when it was time to do it, I was just amped up and ready to go. I just kind of was jamming tunes all morning long and just, just kind of getting ready and in the zone. And, I tried to, I think I came across comfortable and I was comfortable. I was prepared and just ready to do it. And, and it's also coming to terms with your imperfections, like as prepared as I was, I know there's some weaknesses about the business and how it's set up. And, and if there wasn't, the investors wouldn't be interested because they would have no value to add. So you have to know that you're not going to be perfect. They're going to dig in on the weaknesses and they're going to find them. So just own that that's what it is. And, like, hey, you guys come in and you help fix it and help me make this business better. That's where you add value as an investor, right? So,
I mean, that's the important part of partners, right? Knowing where you're not strong and then filling that in with strong people in those areas, right? I mean, that's why you should look for partners. This is why Walt needed his brother, right? Walt Disney needed his brother because he wasn't strong with the numbers. He wasn't strong at making sure that the bills are going to be paid, and not just going off the deep end with the amount of spending and creation that he wanted to do all the time. I meant to ask you, so what music were you listening to prior to walking out there?
Oh man, well, I go to my fallback, like the stuff I listened to in high school, just kind of like emo alt rock, and I don't know. I was listening to some like
Jimmy Eat World or Jimmy Eat World?
Then I listened, Jimmy Eat World, and then also just some like pop tunes. I was listening to like Kesha and stuff like that. Just I don't know, kind of a mix of random playlists and stuff. Just I put on some Tony Robbins for like 15 minutes, like close my eyes, stretch my hands up, do the whole thing. I don't know if it helped or not, but I did it.
That takes some of the edge off. It takes some of the edge off. What instrument do you play, by the way?
I play French horn, and then I also play bass.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Stand-up bass or bass guitar?
Both actually.
Wow.
I played bass in the orchestra for a while, and I was actually a music major in college, and for a while I thought I might actually go into orchestral performance playing bass. So,
very cool, very cool. You don't hear French horn very often when you ask people what they play.
I like French horn, but neither of those is an instrument that's very fun to play by yourself at home. So I don't play much anymore. I tend to play piano the most at home, and I'm teaching my daughter how to play piano now. So
Oh, that's
these days, that's all
awesome.
I'm doing.
So, all right, so you're out there, and you know, obviously the pitches are an hour, 40 minutes to like an hour and a half, right? I mean, that's what, and they cut it down to a little bit. Do you feel like you got a fair shake in the editing, by the editors in your representation?
Well, I think it was a fair shake. I think it ended up being a good look on me and the company. But there were definitely some things that they cut out that would have, when I went out there, I didn't feel like it was overwhelmingly negative. Like when you watch the show, they left in every one of those negative moments and cut out almost all of the positive ones, and so it made it look really dramatic. So it kind of led up to this, it's storytelling. Like they want, if it's going to have like this positive resolution at the end, and then I had that emotional moment kind of after the shot. Well, let's make it look kind of contentious early on to make that more, appealing to the audience. But what they cut out was the first 10 minutes of them like loving the bike and loving the price point. And I thought Kevin was going to whip out his wallet and buy one right on the spot. He just went on and on and on. They cut all that out. It's like, let's just jump right into the weaknesses in your business. It's like, okay.
Well, it is all for the storytelling, right? And because they only have so much time, and they, I don't recall if you had a commercial break in the middle of yours, right? So they have to lead
right in the middle of
to get
negotiation.
people,
They got to do it. Yep.
yeah, they got to get you to make the jump, over to the next, the next scene. So it's one of those things that it definitely, like, does it feel real? Like when you watched it back, did you have like a watch party?
We didn't, just because COVID, and I know our family's most comfortable, if we're going to get together when people are vaccinated and stuff. So I think some of my employees got together. I just watched it at home with my family, and just in the living room there. So it was weird. And apparently my wife said I was like mouthing the pitch while I was doing it on the TV. I don't remember doing that, but she said I was like doing it with the TV. No, it was surreal. It's like, because I mean, Shark Tank's about as real as reality TV gets. They do cut it up, they edit it. There's some things that happen that don't end up on the show, but in the end, it's all one take and there's no redos. So they're pulling from a footage that actually happened. So it's about as real as things get. And so they captured all the key moments that I knew they were going to put in there, of course. So there weren't really any surprises. I just they did what they did to make it interesting and to make the story kind of, have a nice story arc to it.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely masterful editors. I mean, I over the years I've seen some mistakes where you'll hear somebody else talking in that person's mic, and you're like, oh, well, what happened? What, that sounded like they, and then obviously it skips to the down the road. It's not like going back to that person, but for the most part, they are pretty masterful.
There was a little bit of that. It's like, I was supposed to keep a certain distance from the sharks, and when you're trying to get somebody to test ride your bike and park it correctly, it's like it's hard to do from a distance, and you get close, and then I get too close, and they're like, you need to get away from Barbara. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm just. And it's like and she doesn't really care. She's like getting all up next to me. It's
like you were just in quarantine for 2 weeks. Like, what are we doing?
I know, but like they're like, you're not allowed to touch the bike. And it's like, well, but I got to put it back where it belongs. And then, while they're like doing that, they're shouting questions at me. It's like, and they're like, stop asking questions because I got to get me back on the carpet. So there was some of this, but they cut all of it out just to leave the, so it's like you're trying to like focus on what's happening, and you're also trying to manage the room, and like the sharks are antsy to all shout their questions all at you at the same time, and so you got to kind of focus more on the ones that you want to make sure that you're answering, and maybe you have to ignore some of what Lori's trying to ask you or whatever, because you're focused on Barbara, and this is never going to be on QVC, so I'll maybe answer a question or two, but I'm if everyone's asking the questions at the same time, I'm going to go with the ones that I'm going for. So
I think that's a pretty solid strategy. Now, I obviously they're sitting further away from you, and you can't get close to them. I was told that I read that there was a microphone, like there was like a speaker behind each of the sharks or something, so they could hear what you were saying. But you didn't have like a headphone in your ear or
I did not
anything.
have a
So
headphone. I didn't have a speaker. And actually several times I had to like ask them to repeat themselves because they were so far away and they're just talking like normal volume. Like in the room so big, like I almost couldn't even hear them sometimes. And so it was
yeah,
like, I felt like I was shouting across the room, you know, cause you're like, want to be high energy. And then like, I'm getting, it's like nothing coming back. It's like, they're just like talking like normal conversation levels. I can barely hear them. So it was this weird kind of audio environment for sure. Um,
that is weird. I feel like they probably should have given you a headphone at that point to so you could hear and talk normal, like as if you like we're talking right now, but like you're on the other, like you're on the far back side and we're just talking.
I mean, I did have a microphone. I guess technically I could have, but when you can't really hear what's coming at you, you just feel like you need to talk louder. Like you feel like you need to project because they're way far, like just the distance and they're far away. It's like you just kind of naturally just do it.
Yeah, I'm surprised the editors didn't run into an issue with that because, like, you know, it's like if I'm like kind of yelling at you, but in the in the TV boxes, we're like might as well just be sitting right next to each other, right? It's just odd that they wouldn't just be like, here, put this like little earpiece in your ear, and then at least you can hear what's going on and talk at a normal level versus, you know, feeling like you need to raise your voice and they're just talking normal.
Well,
Because they hear you just fine.
maybe
They're
next time.
coming from
Actually, an earpiece would have been nice. I would have appreciated an earpiece.
yeah. You know, hey, they still did it, right? They gave us a
Yep.
season of Shark Tank. They didn't have to do that. They could have
Nope.
just said, it's too hard. We're not going to Vegas. We're not going to figure it out. We're not going to make this happen. We're not going to put people in the quarantine and all that. So they still did it.
Well, and I'm glad they did. I mean, throughout the audition process, there was that big question mark of, is this season even going to happen? Like they're auditioning people, but they don't even know if or when or where it's being filmed. And so like, I kind of didn't have my hopes up the whole time, and in a brief period before they actually filmed it, they actually secured the place and we went out and did it. But like, I didn't know if it was even going to happen at all. And, you know, so I'm glad it all worked out in the end.
It's a big thing because my fear at that point would be that they would just put all the names back in the roto, you know, in the bingo wheel and just be like, all right, everybody's starting fresh because you don't know, you know, some of those businesses a year later might not even exist at that point.
Might not exist, might not need funding. Maybe there's new businesses that are more
interesting
or whatever. So
yeah,
you could have just been recycled and then just dropped. So
yeah,
my expectations were low, and you know, I had enough on my plate to deal with. So I was like, you know, if it works out, cool. If not, I got my hands full with the business as it is. So we'll figure it out.
That's awesome. So after your pitch, you left, right? And what was some of the first things you did like after you walked out? Did you like call your wife or like what, you know?
Man, well, you know, so you do the pitch and then like you're kind of just in this, you know, come down of like adrenaline that's been building for months, and especially so in the last, you know, 24 hours, and you just like all kind of releases and you're just almost in this, I don't know, like kind of high state of just, and some people, they're like guiding you around the different places of where you're going next, and you're just kind of following along, but you're not really sure what's happening. And then they take you to some other place. They do kind of the post shot, whatever you want to call that, the interview. And they're just like, you know, asking you questions and you're just answering them and about what just happened. And then, you know, and then it's like, you're just kind of hit with like, I guess it's done. And, you know, I'm going to go to my hotel room, and they lead you up there, and it's like, is that it? You know, just there was like all of this excitement and then just like nothing. And, you know, and then you're left wondering, you know, you can film and then maybe they never even air it. You know, that happens. People get filmed.
Yeah.
Some people even do deals and then it never ends up on the show. So it's like, so you just left wondering, like, I did this thing. I don't know if it's ever going to get aired, you know? So it's like back to business, I guess. Like, I don't know. You left kind of almost feeling empty. Like, what do I do next? Like, this was the thing I was working on for so long, and now I've got like this hole. Like, what's the next big goal that we're working on here? It's like coming back to normal reality, like as if Shark Tank was never there.
Weeks.
But
you know,
but you also have to prepare
away.
too. It's like, I gotta assume it's going to go on the air. I don't know if it is, so Okay, we need to get more inventory. We got to double the warehouse space. We got to get more people. We got to like do all these things as if it's going to go to air. We're going to get all this exposure. And then if it doesn't, well, then we just have it all, and hopefully we can sell the bikes that we got. So
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely tricky to navigate too. Like, yeah, it never even really occurred to me that they would not air a pitch just because of how much time is invested in each of those pitches. I mean, from your time, their staff time, the Sharks. I mean, the pitches are 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So, like, just that alone. I mean, I've always have greatly admired the fact that the Sharks can produce this many episodes. I mean, with each pitch, even just an average of an hour, and 4 hours per episode just in filming is a lot to ask of these, multi-millionaires / billionaires to be there for like 30 episodes a season.
Yeah. Which is why I'm glad I filmed in the morning and not like at the end of some day of like, oh, this is pitch number 12 today. It's like, we're just going to be grumpy and go out and get out of here. It's like, I don't know if that plays into it, but it has to, so I was happy I was one of the first ones that morning. They're fresh. They're probably just had their breakfast. They're good. So maybe they'll be happy, more positive to me, who knows? It all plays a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do their best to not let that happen, but they're still human. I mean, it's they still have their own, issues and outside influences going on too, right? Their own businesses, their own, just because they got billions of dollars doesn't mean they ain't got problems. That they're, they got all kinds of problems. They got people to deal with those problems, but at the end of the day, everything falls on them, right? And that's the responsibility of the business owner. So, and yeah, so it's gotta be a real big, like, now what after walking off that, like, even like when you do like you perform on stage, right? Like I'm also a DJ, so like getting to perform in DJ competitions and stuff, like you build up, you practice, you're putting your set together, you're doing your thing, you go out there, you do it, and then you come off and it's like, okay, now what? Like, where's the next one? I got to get that high again, right? And unfortunately there's not another Shark Tank right behind it. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, okay, no, now we're off to the next Shark Tank. And
no, there's not and I'm even dealing with this right now, is that, okay, we still had the show to kind of prepare for. If it's going to air, we want a lot of things ready and in place. But then once it airs, it's like, okay, like now, so, we actually took 2 days last week off site, me and the leadership team. Hey, let's look at everything we want to do in the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, make a 1-year plan, 3-month plan, like kind of just laid it down. Here's priorities and goals, because there was really only one goal before that: get ready for Shark Tank. And then it was gone. And like, there was this void across the company. Like, I don't know what's next. So I don't know what's priority. So we had just taken some time off and just thinking, like me with a notepad, just like writing down ideas. Like, okay, let me get back to where was I before this ever entered into my life? Okay, let me go back to there and start doing all the things that I wanted to do last year that I didn't do because this kind of entered the picture, and kind of getting back on track. So,
yeah, I mean that's a big void too, and like the longer void of like, okay, everything's going to this because I really want it to, not everything, but a large chunk of my every moment that isn't spent doing the business is spent watching the Shark Tank, reading the books, doing, listening to audiobooks, doing whatever I can to prepare myself, and now that's been done, right? You had said in the comments, which if you are, by the way, if you're watching this or listening to this, if you could smash that like button and drop some comments below for Aaron, what you thought of the pitch. If you haven't watched the reaction video that I did on his pitch with Larry Roberts, you should totally go do that. I'll drop that in the description below. But so you had said that there's or that Robert decided that he wanted to get involved with the business, and you said it was the first time a shark had done that, which to me is mind-boggling, just given the sheer number of pitches that have existed.
It is the first time in Shark Tank history that a shark not on somebody's panel has invested in a deal. There have been times in the past where somebody was on a panel, did not do a deal, runs into the entrepreneur a year or two later. Oh, hey, how's it going? And then comes in at that point or whatever. But this is the first time somebody not on the panel came into a deal. So, so after I pitched at some point behind the scenes, Robert approached Barbara, hey, I want in on this. I want to split it with you 50-50. And, and that was it. He announced it on and then we kind of did it behind the scenes. And then on Instagram, he announced it the day that it aired that, hey, he came into the deal too. So, maybe there'll be a follow-up thing in the future. Who knows about,
that. Come on now, Aaron, they will, because that's a story right there. Right. Was there cameras around at the time in which he came up?
No. It's this was all behind the scenes. This is all behind the scenes. But no, he's got a bike now. He's riding with his kids. He shared that picture on Instagram. He's like, I love my bikes. My kids love bunch bikes. My dog loves bunch bikes. So he's like way into it. His kids are the perfect age. So they're riding the bike all the time. So it's great to kind of have an advocate and an investor that's like also like a power user of the product. So it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame he wasn't on the panel, because he probably would have jumped right on the idea. He probably would have been the one that wanted to ride the bike too. He probably pushed Barbara out of the way. No, I'll try. I'm gonna ride this, and then probably proceeded to crash the bike into like the set.
Oh, I mean, the motor would have kicked on, and that was part of the challenge. She was like, "There's really not enough space on this little stage to test ride a bike, but we're going to give it a whirl. I think you can take a circle and that's about it." So, and I turned the motor off. Like no motor's going to turn on. There's just not enough space here. You need a road or a bike path or something.
That's so that reminds me. I think in the pitch I actually mentioned that I have an electric assist bike from 1996 or 1997.
Yeah, I looked it up after I saw that. I'd never heard of like what is that? And then I saw the recall, and you mentioned the recall. It's like I don't know what this is.
Not saying I would never send that back. It's in my attic. I don't know if the battery is any good at this point, but I won it in a raffle basically in Philly. They were like, "Oh, you won," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like they took all these pictures with me with the bike, and they're like, "Okay, just sign here, like in case we want to use you in any promotions or anything." They probably never did, but and then proceeded to they got bought by Ford, or they were owned by Ford out of the gate. Think Mobility, and then proceeded to basically go into oblivion. But
I mean, that's actually pretty incredible. You had an electric bike in 96, like 15 years before they were even like cool.
I should have brought it out of the attic to have it here. I'll take some pictures. I'll send it over to you. It's in good condition, because it's pretty much just lived up in the attic. Because I eventually got a moped and then didn't need the electric assist bike, because electric assist bike, I think the max was like 15 miles an hour or something on it, and it wasn't. It was okay for distance, but it wasn't great, like not like a moped. So it just it got retired, but it retired to the attic, and someday we'll probably end up in a museum or something somewhere. So would you say that on like a scale to 1 to 10, what would you rate your Shark Tank experience as overall? And obviously giving the benefit of the doubt of like being stuck in a hotel room for 2 weeks.
I'd give it a 9, man. I don't have any regrets or complaints or things that I would go back and do differently. Yeah, there's things I could have answered better or prepared better or whatever, but in the end, I was as ready as I was going to be, and I think the experience was great. They took good care of us, and I had fun when I was out there, and I liked the way that they edited, and I'm glad it ended up on the show, and it's given a good boost to our business. So I really can't complain. It was worth all the effort for sure.
Yeah, well, that's always the thing, right? It's like you're still running the business. It's not like you're just preparing for Shark Tank, right? You're not just preparing for the Olympics. You're also running a business. You're running a business that has its own day-to-day operations and things going on in it too. So. Congratulations on getting a deal. That is awesome. And has that worked out well for you so far? If you're able to,
it just kind of happened recently, so it wasn't much before the show aired that we closed the deal. So wow. It's kind of like just initial stages. There's a lot of due diligence and stuff that happens behind the scenes. Like they do the show, but they don't really know anything about you or your business. Now it's time to get to work, and months of paperwork and financials and making sure that you are who you say you are, and there's no skeletons in the closet that didn't come up in the 20, 30 minutes you were talking to them. You really keep, they got to check all the, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and it takes a long while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, we're just
absolutely.
in early stages with them. So I'm excited for what's coming in the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's probably hopefully a lot of great news in the near future. What is there anything that you wanted to fill me in with before we wrap up here that I didn't get to ask?
Man, I think we covered it. I think we're good.
Oh, awesome. Well, Aaron, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today and talk about your experience as much as you obviously could, and share inspiration to other entrepreneurs that are looking to get on the Shark Tank, or even just to pitch to other. There's tons of, you don't just have to go to Shark Tank. There's tons of pitch competitions out there that aren't as maybe stressful as Shark Tank is, or is entailed. But
if you mess up in another pitch, nobody, it's not going to see the light of day. So it's, and I actually was pitching to angel investors and stuff like that earlier, last year. So I had kind of prepared in that way as well, and then got my friends and said, okay, 5 of you all pretend to be a different shark. I'm going to pitch you via Zoom, and we're going to do this. I did that a couple times, and so any preparation where you're just allowed to fail and have it be messy and go poorly is good, because it prepares you for the real thing, and you get all that out of your system. Hopefully, you see where all your blind spots are.
Yeah. I mean, that's we don't fail, we learn, right? That's how we get education.
Yep.
And in anything, it's not just in pitching. So I think it's important for anybody who's has a business or is trying to get into business. I think it's really key for them to understand that we don't fail, we just learn. We learn a lesson, and we paid for that lesson, just like you would pay to go to school. I remember I was, when I left my family's business, it was $100 million company, leave the business, and people were asking me. I started up a podcast about a month after I left back in 2014, and people would ask me, so how much money are you making, Joe? And I'm like, well, if I was going to school, the first question you wouldn't be asking me is, how much money am I making going to school? Because the answer is nothing. I'm paying to be there, right? I'm paying to learn.
Yep.
I'm paying with time. I'm paying with energy, and I'm paying with money. And that's just that's the way of the learning process. That's just what it is. Some people.
And if anything, you get more out of it because you go to college and you learn something, but you don't have any tangible thing to apply that information to, and so it's hard to retain that. But when you've got a business and you read a book or you try something, it's like you can immediately just put that into action, see if it worked or not, iterate, learn. So I think just taking action and just taking a stab at whatever you're trying to do is a better way to do it than just going to college or reading a ton about it without actually doing anything. So
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, I do want to get some video of you and Larry riding on bikes together around the Dallas area. That would be awesome to see. Unfortunately, I don't live out there. I've been to Fort Worth a couple of times. I actually like it there a lot.
No, it's nice. I told Larry to come up to the warehouse sometime, so we'll see if he does.
That would be awesome.
He's pretty close by.
That's awesome. Yeah. So at some point I will get back. I will get down there, when COVID is over, and get back to Texas and hopefully come see Aaron. I would love to do that.
Hit me up anytime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Aaron, for being here. Again, if you have made it this far into the interview, please make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so we can get this video in the hands of more super entrepreneurs like yourself. Make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss any more Shark Tales, Tank Tails, whatever you want to call it. These DuckTales. Make sure so you get subscribed. We got more of these coming down the pike with some other Shark Tank business owners, as well as more Biz Coach Reacts videos. And if you haven't been watching, by the time this airs, I will have been doing live streams as well, doing business reviews, like Biz Coach Reacts reviews of businesses online. So I'm looking forward to doing those. So go make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss those. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notifications up in this direction every time that I go live with those. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.